Good afternoon again, everyone. Thank you for joining our AmeriCorps Site Supervisor training call today. If you can hear me, we'd love for you to just send a quick note in the chat so we know that our audio is working. Thank you, everyone, for letting us know. Okay, today we are going to talk about what's coming up with the AmeriCorps year. We'll go over some recruitment updates. We'll talk about roles and expectations of HHCK, what you can expect from us and what we ask of our service sites. We'll talk about our program goals, what we hope to do with our AmeriCorps program, the impact that we're trying to have. We'll also talk about member orientation and training and member development and support. Then we'll get into actually supervising the AmeriCorps member, what that looks like for you, important policies that you need to know, the ones we're going to highlight, and then we'll wrap up with next steps, what happens after today's training. We are recording today's training so we can share that with people who weren't able to make it. And if you have any questions during the training, you are welcome to put them in the chat box, or you can hang on after the training and we'll stay on and chat with you then. We have some new site supervisors on with us today, and since we haven't been able to meet them in person, we just wanted to be able to put a face to the names that you're hearing. I'm Caitlin Bottoms. I'm our AmeriCorps Program Director. I've been with HHCK since 2015. I served as an AmeriCorps member in this program, and so I'm very excited to stay with this program and keep working with it. Holly Dennis is our AmeriCorps member coordinator. She has been with HHCK since 2019, and she also served as a member in this program. So I know she is also excited that we get to continue being involved with AmeriCorps. In our recruitment video that we distributed in May, and hopefully you all had the opportunity to watch that, we did do a little more introduction with what AmeriCorps is, but I did want to do a quick refresher before we move on. Our direct service members, the ones that you will be working with this upcoming year, the ones you're hosting at your site, and the ones that, that's why you're on the call, those members provide hands-on and immediate services to people experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity, or in need of affordable housing or home ownership opportunities. AmeriCorps programs are funded through a federal agency now known as AmeriCorps, and our program year runs from August 1st until July 31st of the next year. We work with two different position types, the first being a 1,700-hour member, and that's who most of you on this call are going to be working with. We do have a couple 900-hour positions that we have as well. We're all over the state. We say that we have members everywhere between Paducah and Ashland. And so we're really excited to be a statewide program. We really enjoy working in all the areas that we get to. And we just like to emphasize that AmeriCorps is pronounced as if it was like core of the earth or Marine Corps. It is not AmeriCorps or AmeriCorp because we aren't dead, we're alive and well. Okay, just a couple recruitment updates. I know a lot of us on this call have already found our members, but we do have some people on that haven't. And so we wanted to share with you that if you don't have someone by August 1st or 2nd, that's fine. We can bring on a member anytime between August 1st and September 1st, and it still gives the member plenty of time to finish their service and get those 1,700 hours in. We know that a lot of you have experienced challenges with finding members. I would argue that we've had challenges here at the program level as well, and we haven't had as many general applicants come through. So we ask you to think about, like, what ways have you recruited if you're still having challenges? Are we putting it out on social media? Are we asking, our networks, our volunteers, colleagues, things like that? I know in an ideal world, maybe you would want someone with 10 years of construction experience or 10 years of case management. But AmeriCorps is a development opportunity. It's a way for people to grow and learn and expand their knowledge. So if you get an applicant that comes through that doesn't seem like a great fit on paper, we do ask that you give them a chance, at least maybe speak with them, do like a little initial screener, because they might end up being a really great fit for your organization. If we send you any candidates from the general applications we receive, they've already screened with us, meaning they're eligible to serve, they're willing to live on the living allowance, they're willing to do 1,700 hours, not years. So please interview them. And, again, they might be a good fit for you. If you have not heard from us on any general applicants, unfortunately, it means we've not received any confirmed interest for your position. But I wanted to emphasize with you all that as soon as we have someone come through for you, we want to send them to you, and we will send them to you so you have as much time as you need to meet with them. I'm going to pass the conversation over to Holly, who's going to talk to you about some interviewing reminders.
Okay. So some things that we would like for you to include whenever you are interviewing a potential candidate or member, please, ask the questions that are on the member recommendation form. It's a pretty short screener. I think if you ask those questions up front, you'll be able to figure out if service is a good fit for them, if this is going to be a good fit for them and the position in your organization. After you complete an interview with the person and you are thinking that you are going to recommend them for the position, please forward that form to us. We like to have that on file. The form does also ask the person's name and their contact information. So if the person hasn't applied through the AmeriCorps website, it is helpful for us to have that information, and that way part of my job at that point in the interviewing process or onboarding process is to reach out to the person and help them apply through my AmeriCorps, and I can't do that if I don't have a way of contacting them. We also ask that when you are completing interviews with the person to talk about the AmeriCorps program, talk about the Homes for All program, and just where we're at throughout the state, what our program does, what other members are doing across the state as well. Talk about the benefits, the living allowance, the education award amount. We do have brochures uploaded onto our onto the HHCK website underneath the Homes for All tabs. So it's easy for you to just click on it, download it. If you want to print it out, if you're having an in-person interview, or if you want to email it to them, you can do it that way as well. It has, quick and easy things to talk about while you're speaking with the person. We also ask that you talk about the service term. So letting them know that the program year begins on August 1st and ends on July 31st. And if a person does begin their service term, early, I would say most members are starting on August 2nd because that's the first Monday in the program year. But just letting them know that would require them to serve 37.5 hours a week to make sure that they complete that 1,700 hour requirement by July 31st. It's also helpful for sites and supervisors to talk about the background checks that our office will be completing on the person. there are 3 different background checks that we have to run on a person, and you know, there's a consent form that they have to fill out in order for us to get to that step. So just let them know that those background checks can take a little bit to can take a few days or several days for our office to receive those results. And those background checks are the National Sex Offender Public Registry check, the Kentucky state background check, which is run through the Administrative Office of the Courts, and then we do a live scan FBI background check as well. It's also nice for sites to include in their interview just talking or having that conversation about some overnight travel. So hopefully later on in the program year, we'll be able to bring our members together and do, service projects. You could talk to them about MLK Day of Service, and doing group projects with other members in their area. You could talk to them about our annual service project that we do, just to make sure that that travel is going to work out, with their schedule, if it's something that they can commit to for a year. Also, you want to talk about your specific AmeriCorps position. All of you have completed, position descriptions with your applications. So I think it's nice to, for you all to have that position description available for the person to, either look at instead of, just talking to them about the daily tasks, so that they can know that, like, that's an important document. We have to have that. That's something that they have to sign. That's something that you sign. It's helpful whenever we get to the part where I speak to them and they, feel comfortable with the position and the service tasks that they're going to be doing. You can also explain to the person that not only, you may require them to submit, a resume to your organization or to you, but they also have to complete that My AmeriCorps application. The instructions can be downloaded if you want to do that from the HHCK's website. That's part of my job too, is if we have not received their application, I email them instructions. That's what I found has been the easiest way to make sure that they get those step-by-steps to get that submitted to us. We have to have it. It is a requirement, so we cannot move forward with them if we don't have that application. And just letting them know that after they speak with you, they're going to talk to either me or Caitlin. And hopefully, at that point, some of the things that we talk about are just refreshers about the program. That's a really good feeling when we get to that point. Just some refreshers or reminders. You can check out the recruitment packet and the video. Also, just remember to not use the language of, we're going to hire you or you've been hired. They're not hired. They're not employees. And again, just as soon as you have recommendations, please send them to us, ASAP. Even if you're not really sure about the person, we may be able to explain things a little bit more in detail, or they may have, or we might have another position that could be a better fit for them. We never know. So send them to us. So after interviews, if you would like for us to send references to you, if you want to look at those reference checks, just reach out to me or Caitlin, and we can and request copies of those from us. You know, if the person provided a resume to you, you know, you can, you know, reach out to their references as well if you would like. And we'll review the application and the references that they submitted with their AmeriCorps application. And they have to be, the references have to complete that portion of that portion. If not, we'll be sending like reminders, or they may even have to change their references because those have to be completed. Background checks. So after you or someone at your organization has interviewed the candidate, and I've talked to them, and we're at that point of background checks, we just like for you all to know that when it comes to the FBI background check, we're having a little bit more issues compared to previous years about the live scan locations to send members to. They don't seem to be as accessible in like rural areas like they had been in previous years. So we are working with those members, and we'll work with future members on other routes that we may have to go. And so just know that we may have a little bit of a delay in those checks, but typically as long as the candidate is responsive and has just a little bit of motivation, we can really get that background check completed fairly quickly, as quickly as we can anticipate. And again, we cannot run any of the 3 background checks until we receive the consent form, you know, that they sign allowing us to complete those. After, you know, I've interviewed the person, and I will, you know, reach back out to you as the site supervisor. If there's any type of like reservations or anything like that, I talk to you about that. If not, I'll let you know I don't have any reservations of the person, you know, serving in the program. And I might ask again if you would like to move forward. And so once we reach that point and you are like, yep, we want to move forward, that's when I send paperwork to the person. And we have 2 options of getting the paperwork sent to them. The first way is through DocuSign. So electronic signatures are allowed. And it seems to be the quickest way since we, you know, are working with people in different regions of the state. Or the packet can be emailed to the person to print off. And if that is the option that the person feels more comfortable doing, we do just ask that your organizations help get the paperwork printed off for them, especially, you know, if the person doesn't have access to a printer. Please allow them to come in and print it off and help them scan it back to me so that we can get their paperwork processed and start running those background checks. Typically, we can, or it can be up to a 5-day turnaround. So that's, it may be sooner than that, but that's typically what our turnaround is. So if you only give us one name and you don't have any hesitations on this person starting in service, you know, we're going to talk to them, you know, really quick, like we always do, and we're going to send that paperwork, you know, very, very quickly. So just in case you may be thinking, you know, why does HHCK interview candidates? Well, we want to get to know the people who are interested in serving at the positions at your organizations, and we want to get to know them as well. You know, we like to learn about people, and, you know, we're going to be working with them throughout a year of service as well. We also want to talk about, you know, their willingness and the ability to serve in an AmeriCorps program. You know, there are many requirements and expectations of serving in an AmeriCorps program, and we want to make sure that it's a good fit and it's something that they can commit themselves to for a year. We want to make sure and help the person understand what happens next after we interview them. And we also talk about how you know, your organization, how and them and HHCK like all connect. And sometimes it's like a light bulb goes off and they're like, oh, okay, like this makes sense. I understand why I'm talking to you now. And just a little note, we can eliminate a candidate that you may have recommended to us if we have, you know, very serious reservations about them being able to serve or complete a full year of service. If that were to be the case with someone that you recommend to us, we're obviously going to have a conversation about it. Roles and expectations. So HHCK's role in this whole thing, sorry, my mind went blank. So at the program level, you can expect that we are going to administer the federal grant to make sure that we are in compliance with AmeriCorps regulations. We're going to complete all of the member background checks and make sure that they are cleared. We are also going to train and orient members just like your sites will. We're going to provide support to you, your organization, and your members. There is a member development component to our grant, so we'll talk about that a little bit later, but we're going to encourage some member development throughout their year of service with us. And we also will report on the program goals and our members' progress to AmeriCorps at the federal level. So in partnership with you, we are all going to make sure that the member, you know, they're eligible and enrolled to begin service. So usually during this time, you'll be getting emails back and forth from either me or Caitlin about, you know, just making sure that we have that confirmed start date and everybody is on the same page when that's going to be, and we have everything that we need. We are in partnership with you. We're going to supervise and mentor the members. We're going to make sure that all of our members are safe and feel comfortable, and we are going to support the goals of the Homes for All program. So your role as an AmeriCorps service site, when your member starts, you're going to, you know, provide an orientation and training to your members at the start of their service. Sometimes, you know, that could be, you know, a week-long orientation throughout the month. It could be in various, you know, stages. You're going to make sure that the person has the supplies and equipment and, you know, space to be able to provide services to clients and families and individuals. Your role as the service site, so you're going to monitor the person's attendance and leave. So sometimes we have some issues with that, and we'll talk about that just a little bit later on what can help. But, you know, Caitlin and I can't be on site every day. So it will be, you know, the supervisor's responsibility to make sure that you know, there's no issues with that. And you're gonna, you know, coach and guide your member, support them, and for program support, members will be completing performance measure reports or reporting for the Homes for All program. And so just helping them when it comes to that, it is something that the member is responsible for, But in just from hearing from members, when they have that support and help from their site supervisors, it seems to be an easier process for them. And just complete any forms that we might be requesting throughout the year for you all to complete. So mutual expectations. So what we expect from a site supervisor in an organization that's partnering with our program. Please comply with our program policies. You please review the service side agreement, which will be sent out. Anytime there are issues when they come up, please direct them to us sooner rather than later. Typically, we see sometimes if issues kind of, if we get brought into an issue or something that's going on later, it could be to the point where everybody's just ready to cut ties, and we don't want that to happen. We want to be able to help, you know, provide mediation whenever it's possible. We ask that you use the appropriate service language. So referring to the person in their position as an AmeriCorps member, they're not an employee, they're not staff, they're not a temp worker, they're not an intern or a volunteer, they're an AmeriCorps member. They receive a living allowance. It's not a paycheck, it's not a salary. So just you say that. And it's service, it's not work. So just make sure we're all using the same language. Again, they're not hired, they're not employed, they're not a staff, they're not a worker. So we you know, expect our sites and partner organizations to support our goals and acknowledge that you are in partnership with an AmeriCorps program. So some sites may already, you know, have AmeriCorps, you know, site or sorry, AmeriCorps logos or signs at your office. And hopefully we'll be able to come out and do site visits and stuff, or mail things out to you with the logo on it. So others either in or at your organization or other community partners, I know that, you know, you are in partnership with an AmeriCorps program. What you can expect from us, we will send out updates to you on a quarterly basis or as needed. Sometimes things just kind of come up, so it could be a little bit more than that, or it could be a little bit less than that, but typically it'll be, you know, quarterly. We're going to provide support to you, your organization, and the member. If we need to provide mediation, like I mentioned, any type of issues that may come up, that's what we're here to do. Is we're going to, you know, meet with all parties involved, and we're going to talk through it and see if there's any advice or recommendations that we can provide. And we're always going to make, you know, thoughtful decisions. You might hear us say this a lot, but we hope that you guys just understand that AmeriCorps is not employment. It's not capacity building. If there are capacity building activities that you want to talk about, we can do that separately because we have a VISTA program. And it's not never ending. It's not a temp worker, it's not an intern. They're not there to just do data entry. They're not a secretary. They're not just there to fill in gaps. And it's not a replacement for permanent staff.
All right, I'm going to take over for a little bit, and we're going to talk about performance measures as it relates to our program's goals. So when we write the grant for federal funding, we have to describe what we want to do with AmeriCorps members, what the community need is, and what we hope to accomplish with AmeriCorps members. So our goal as a program, collaboratively, collectively, our members aim to serve 2,500 individuals. That means adults and children. I provided a few examples of what we consider to be housing services and what services that members can provide and count towards performance measures. So that's not the complete list, it's just some examples. And we hope our outcome is that 1,000 of those individuals are transitioned into housing, they're able to acquire housing or maintain their existing housing. So again, those are just a few examples of what we consider to be housed. We also know that there are a lot of factors that affect whether people successfully complete services or not. A lot of external factors that they have no control over, or that your site has no control over. But that is our goal. Our members are also going to report on any volunteers that they manage, train, or recruit to provide those similar housing services. Ultimately, it is the member's responsibility to report on the people that they have served. We ask that they report by the 15th of the month for the previous month. So any new households that are exiting service successfully or not, just general updates about the household. And then if they have in their position description that they are working with volunteers, we'll collect a volunteer report from them as well. Members also, if we ask questions on data, there's something we're not sure about, if they're behind in reporting, we've not gotten any information for them, it is their responsibility to complete requests as soon as possible. We always tell them that performance measure reporting counts as part of their service, so they don't have to go home at night and do it on their own time. They can count, the half hour or hour that they spend each month completing those reports. And I say half an hour to an hour because if you stay up to date or the member stays up to date and they are reporting every month, it's not that bad. It's when they get behind and we're having to follow up with them after a few months. Our responsibility at HHCK with performance measures, we're here to train members initially on how to complete performance measure reporting. We provide ongoing training and reminders throughout the year. And then we do schedule one-on-one trainings with members in case they need a bit more support. We review those reports that are submitted regularly. So again, if there's an issue with data or something that just doesn't look right or missing data, we'll follow up with the member. And then we do report on our impact to AmeriCorps on an annual basis. So I listed some responsibilities that we ask you to take on. Again, it's the members, that's their responsibility. However, we do sometimes need your support throughout the year and making sure that we get that information. We know that reporting, maybe 10% of the members like to do it. And so they don't want to set aside time. They'd rather be out in the field or working with people hands-on. But we do ask them to set aside that time just once a month to get those reports done. And so if we contact you and say that we're having trouble connecting with your member or we're not getting the reports, just helping them make time to get that done is very much appreciated at HHCK. And sometimes we have members that exit service early and we haven't gotten any information from them on the people that they've served. We may follow up with you after they've exited service just to see how many people that they served and how many of those people were housed, because we don't want to miss out on that data. I'm going to pass it back over to Holly to talk a little bit about orientation and training.
Okay, so there are a couple parts when we talk about orientation and training for your members. So the first part is the orientation that your site is going to provide to your member. This was a plan that was included in the site, in your service site application. We ask that it be intentional, making it in, an engaging experience for the person, being, responsive and just like customized to the AmeriCorps position. from just hearing about orientation experiences from previous members is if they have a strong orientation with you, they it really does shape how their service year is going to look, and they feel more confident in the services that they're going to be providing. So just think about that as you are bringing on, this new person to your organization. So there are some things that we ask to just, think about or do before the member arrives. Please explain what the AmeriCorps program is to other employees at your organization. It's very important for them to know and to show a mutual respect towards the member. Explain what the person, or the member's role is while they're there during a year of service. We ask that you order business cards with the AmeriCorps logo, if that's something that you are able to do. If you need access to the AmeriCorps logo or something, just let us know and we'll be sure to get that to you. Create an email address for the member, and that way any type of service emails or correspondence or whatever it may be can be sent to that email instead of flooding their personal email address. We ask that you check in with the person and just make sure that before their first day of service they have directions to the office, or they know where to park. If there's designated parking, what that's kind of, going to look like. Just make sure that they feel comfortable in how to get there, and just letting them know what to expect on their first day. Letting them know what time they need to report to your site. Making sure they understand what their schedule is going to look like. And again, Caitlin will talk about that a little bit later, but just, making sure they know when to get there. If you have any questions, let me or Caitlin know. Some things to include, introduce the person to, other employees and staff at your organization, and take them through a tour of, the site, so they feel more comfortable. I've worked, before this position, I worked at a DCBS office and it was like a maze. And so I had a lot of figuring out to do on my own. And just like as a new person, that can be intimidating. So just go on a tour. As you do that, if you're going around different offices, introduce the person to other employees. Make sure that you're going over immediate housekeeping things. So what that mail service looks like, if there's a process to ordering new office supplies when they run out or something, that they know what to do. I mentioned it before, but parking, making sure they know where to park if there's any issues or limited parking spaces. Getting them comfortable with using, phone, email, the computer that they are going to be provided, any other types of services that they may be using, fax, copier, things like that. Making sure that they have access to your organization. If they need keys, making sure they have a copy, or just what that is going to look like when entering the building. Talk to them about working styles. So what's your working style, things that work best for you, share what your expectations are. And please make sure that you are developing a schedule that way. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit later, so I won't go into it right now. Talk about the history and purpose of your organization. If you have an organization chart, just kind of show them what that looks like so they have a better idea. and just providing the person some time to, you know, adjust or recoup, or you know, if they need a minute to themselves to like read, maybe some things that you've given them, giving them some time and space to do that, and then kind of approach you if they have, you know, any questions about what has been covered so far. Throughout the first month, we hope that there are other, you know, training opportunities that the person can go to, like maybe a VSBAT training or something, or case management training, or mental health first aid, just thinking of some things. Provide them with reading materials. If you have any calls or meetings that are already scheduled, have them attend so that they can be introduced, and so others can know what their purpose is while they're there for a year. And we ask that you complete the member and supervisor expectation agreement, and Caitlin will talk about that in a little bit.
Okay, the second part of our orientation and training plan for the members during their year is with us at Homes for All. We will be providing a general AmeriCorps orientation. All members have to participate in this. We're expected to provide it as part of our grant. The first offering will be on Tuesday, August 10th. So any member that's in service by August 10th will need to be on that call. If you already know of a date conflict, something's happening, please let us know immediately or after today's training so we can figure out an alternative. Members can be on site while this training takes place. They don't need to stay at home or anything like that. Thursday, September 2nd is going to be our makeup training. So anybody that isn't in service yet, when August 10th comes around, they will join us on September 2nd. There will also be a couple of webinars in America Learns, which is our reporting and timekeeping system. They'll complete those at their own pace. We'll just have them do them by the end of August. We're also, since we can't do an in-person full training and orientation like we typically do and have done in previous years, now the vaccines are available and we have some people in the state that have taken it, we are hosting a couple of in-person days. They aren't going to be complete trainings. If they come, they'll, you know, we're going to network and get to know each other, and we will provide some information to them, but there's not going to be anything that is going to be missed by a member who isn't there. We do acknowledge that COVID cases are rising yet again. So as of right now, we are still planning to host on August 17th, August 24th, and August 26th. If a member does not feel comfortable attending, we completely understand. It's just encouraged for them to attend if they do feel comfortable. And we hope that it is primarily people who are vaccinated that join us. We'll also be hosting position training days. So typically we do these in person at our annual pre-service orientation, and we don't want to lose out on that this year just because we're doing another year virtually. So if your member is going to be serving people experiencing homelessness primarily, they will need to set aside Thursday, August 12th to be on a call with us or on training with us that day. If your member is providing housing services, but to people that are not experiencing homelessness, they will join us on Thursday, August 19th. And if they are a construction member, we'll host a training on August 31st. The rest of our training plan for this year is quite extensive. We're really excited about it. We're going to start doing monthly program trainings or webinars on the 15th of every month. This is replacing what we used to do, and those were just conference calls on a quarterly basis. We're hoping these monthly trainings will be a bit more engaging and informative and educational. AmeriCorps launch, this is run by our state service commission called Serve Kentucky. All members, no matter what program they're in Kentucky, have to participate in this event. It is on October 19th. If members are vaccinated, Serve Kentucky is requesting that they do come in person. It's in Richmond. And if people are not comfortable attending or are unvaccinated, they will be running it online as well. The MLK Day of Service, that's a required participation aspect of this program. We'll talk more about it in a little bit. Same with the service project that takes place in the spring. We are planning for that to be in person this year. And our end of year training and celebration will be in person as well. I do want to note that any event that we ask your member to come to, we provide meals, mileage reimbursement, and lodging if necessary. So if your member elects to join us in August for those networking days, and I don't really like the term networking, but I hope you understand what we're trying to say with that. We will provide mileage reimbursement to them, so they're not going to lose out on that. And we will feed them. The rest are our orientation and training for August. The initial training on August 10th, we're going to talk about policies and procedures, benefits, allowable and prohibited activities, the terms of their service, performance measures, how to use our America Learns reporting systems. The position-specific training days, I've listed on the screen the topics that we hope to train your members on. We may not have time to fit all of that in one day, so we will be providing those trainings throughout the year. That's another reason we wanted to start doing those monthly trainings. We also wanted to offer monthly trainings to support member development. It's a lot to capture in a 3-day online orientation. It's pretty overwhelming. So throughout the year, some of our plans include about elevator speeches, public speaking activities, fair housing, implicit bias, just general implicit bias in housing, healthy boundaries, ethics, self-care. We have so much planned and we're really, really excited about it. I'm going to pass it back over to Holly.
Okay, so we have it written in our grant. This is called AmeriCorps Member Development Plan. And so there are 4 components to this plan for our members to complete. So 3 of the 4 components are coordinated with us, or we do a lot of the coordinating, I should say. We've kind of touched base on some of these. So the first component is the MLK Day of Service. That is typically a group project. We group members based on what region of the state they're serving in and other members that are serving close to them. So it's another way for members to get together and, network, get to know each other, that type of thing, but also do something for their community. The second component is the point in time count. This is a homeless services activity. So we do ask that members participate in the K count. Our office coordinates the spring service project that will be in spring of this year. That project is when we all get together as a program and in our VISTA program as well. And we are partnering with a construction site. And so we're out doing repair work or like a new home construction for families. So it's a lot of fun. That project does typically require an overnight stay. And I will say, just being a member in this program, it really shaped my experience. I mean, it's just so much fun. The fourth component is the public awareness activity. And so this is an activity to help members get experience with public speaking. They have the full year to complete this. They may talk to you and maybe help get some ideas about where they would like to complete this activity. Some people in previous years have like went to like different like board meetings and talked about the Homes for All AmeriCorps program. They talked about AmeriCorps. They talk about your organizations, the services that they've provided to their community through their year of service. So we do have some examples to like share with the members, just to kind of give them an idea of like maybe a starting point. But it's open. We want them to get creative with it. And we just think it's very important to have, good public speaking skills. During their year of service, they're going to complete reflections. So at the beginning of their service year, we ask that they identify 2 personal or 2 professional goals that they would like to accomplish by the end of their service term. And so I look at those, Caitlin looks at those. And so if we can help, support them in meeting those goals, that's what, that's a big part of my job is helping to do that. They're going to report also in those reflections on just like their progress, what their experience has been like so far, not just at the site, but also the program level as well. And the reflections, as you can see, there are 3 different dates. They'll be in December, March, and the last one will be in June. So some ways that sites can develop and support members while they're there. Some formal ways, if you're able to have your members attend, trainings or other professional development opportunities, that really changes the way that the person how their experience is in the program. It's also a good, resume builder. If you have a staff meetings, like we have staff meetings right now, like weekly. So, making sure your members are a part of those meetings so that they, they're part of your team. And so they should be included during those meetings. If you have a staff retreat, include them. That really does shape the members' experience as well. Some informal ways to support is, incorporate some weekly check-ins. I mean, we do, hope that you're meeting with your members, every 2 weeks or something like that. They don't have to be, the formal check-ins, but just checking in with them, see how they're doing. Developing an open door policy with the member, just so they know, ways to communicate with you and get to feel comfortable communicating with you. Sometimes this is the first professional experience that people may be getting, and so that really does help them out with their year of service and just mentoring them throughout the year. There's also some in-kind and financial support that sites can offer to members. So on the screen, there are some different things that you could provide. So just to give some context, like with housing, if you could pay towards, rent or mortgage. We've had sites in previous years, help pay half of the person's rent while they're serving with them. You could offer maybe like grocery cards, every month or quarterly or something like that to help, offset the, food expenses. If your site has, things that have like your logo on it, promotional items, pins, cups, t-shirts, hats, whatever, offer those things to your members so they, feel like part of the team as well. providing some ongoing trainings. Some sites may be able to offer a living allowance increase. Again, if you are a site that has VISTA, participates in our VISTA program, this is only for this AmeriCorps State National program. So with the living allowance increase this year, the maximum amount that you can increase it is $16,000. So the living allowance amount for the full year is $16,000. So that would bring the total to $32,000 for the year. There's a form that the site fills out and sends back to our office. And just know that you have to pay the increase amount plus the FICA up front. And just know that we will not distribute that living allowance increase until that amount is paid in full. And we just ask if you have more than one member serving at your organization that you are fair to both of them or more than that. Okay, HHCK's role in orientation, training, development, and support. So within the first 2 weeks of your members starting, we're going to reach out to them. We're going to send, welcome emails, kind of let them know what's going to be happening, especially during their first month of service. Just to make sure that they know the orientation dates. You can always check in with them as well, making sure that they understand the requirements of being on the orientation calls. Within the first 3 to 5 months of service, we will do site visits if things are going well with the pandemic. We will do site visits anyways. This year, as many of you know, we did site visits virtually, but hopefully we'll be able to come out and visit you guys at your sites. Monthly trainings, we've already kind of hit that, but we're really excited to be able to offer monthly trainings to our members on the 15th of every month to help get them some, additional just whether it's refreshers or new information regarding, housing topics and other. We'll also include any important program updates as needed. We will provide webinars if we have training opportunities that we are made aware of and we think that they would be great for members to attend. I'm always sending out emails like that to members. This year, a lot of those were online webinars, but there's still really good information. I will do individual check-ins with your members to make sure, see how they're feeling. If there's any challenges, we can talk about that. It's just kind of another safe space for them to talk about anything that's going on. They can share successes with me. If there's any questions that they haven't had a chance to ask me or they just kind of come up, we'll be able to talk to them. You also share with your members. They are more than welcome to call me, anytime during the day. They don't have to, just send like emails or wait for me to do a check-in. I understand that we're all busy doing our own thing, but they're more than welcome to reach out to me as well. We will be doing service projects together during the year and our end of training celebration in the summer. And then if we need to offer any mediation with everyone or, all parties involved, we will be here to do that.
All right, we are going to talk about supervising the AmeriCorps member, what we said we would talk about with this call. Before we dive in, I wanted to share a little bit about AmeriCorps member benefits so you can understand or get a better idea of the people coming in to serve with your organization. I think it also helps explain or demonstrate how this is not employment. First being that your member is going to be receiving a living allowance that is $16,000 for the year. That's going to be distributed on a biweekly basis. The education award, that's a pretty big benefit to a lot of members that decide to serve in our program. The education award can be used to pay for qualified student loans or student expenses and for tuition. We do offer health insurance. The member can sign up if they don't have access to a plan. The premium is paid by us. The only thing the member is responsible for are copays, prescription costs, in and out, or a deductible. The copays are fairly reasonable. The plan that we work with understands that it is AmeriCorps and members are on a limited income. Members that live in a household that is income eligible can apply for child care assistance to offset the cost of child care. It is very similar to the state coverage that they would receive if they were on that plan. So if they're already receiving child care assistance through the state, we encourage them to just stick with that. Any service-related travel, things that we're pulling them off-site for, we'll provide that mileage reimbursement, meals, and lodging. And the members that have qualified student loans, any federally backed student loan, they can put those loans into forbearance, and any interest that accumulates while they're in service will be paid by AmeriCorps at the end of their service term. These are just some highlights that we ask of you as you supervise your AmeriCorps member. We do understand that this is just one part of your job. You wear many different hats. You have many responsibilities at your organization. So I do hope you know that we really do appreciate you all. You play such an important role in our program. But with that, we do have some responsibilities that we ask of you. So the first is to provide a comprehensive training and orientation for your member. The information that we shared with you a few slides ago, please expand on that. You know your organization best, so whatever you think would be beneficial for the member, please add it. You want to review all relevant policies and procedures before the member starts working with clients or families. Any meetings that we ask or site visits, please participate in those. Again, we know how busy you are, so we're not going to take up too much of your time. And the time you do spend with us, we really appreciate it. Ideally, you have time to meet with your AmeriCorps member each week, even if it's not a super formal check-in. But at the very least, if you can't meet with them weekly, try and hit it like on a bi-weekly basis so that you can see how the member is doing, if they're having any challenges. It's a good time to talk about issues and things like that. On a monthly basis, we are going to ask that you approve timesheets for the member. We'll talk about that in a couple of slides. Twice a year, you'll also complete a member evaluation. Please notify Homes for All immediately of any changes in supervision. So this year, we had a couple site supervisors that left and didn't tell us. We found out when we got an out-of-office response. So we don't want that. We want to be able to help your member during the transition to a new site supervisor. So we want to know that up front. We do understand that we're probably the last thing on your mind if you're leaving your position, but hopefully you'll be able to fit us in and just let us know through a quick email or phone call. And I add communicate on the slide. It's in capital letters just to emphasize it. We're not trying to yell at you or anything like that. It's just very important for us to maintain communication with you and for you to do the same for us. We'll contact you if anything comes up. And so please feel free to call us or email us if something's happening. I know there's a lot of text on the screen, so I'm not going to read it word for word. I just want to explain and highlight a couple differences between supervising an AmeriCorps member versus a paid employee. So the first, again, they're national service members. They're committing themselves to serve for a year in the community. Typically, not always, but typically members are often early in their career, so they might need some extra guidance and support from you, especially when it comes to workplace norms and professional working habits. Again, they are serving for those really limited benefits. They are serving in a very challenging field, as you all know. So it's really helpful if they're able to cultivate an experience that is meaningful, both personally and professionally, since they're not getting those tangible benefits. They also might be more interested in that coaching or mentoring than someone that is a standard paid employee. We already talked about this, but we need your help in the integration of your AmeriCorps member into your service site and helping explain that role to other staff members of your organization, because they might not understand that a member is not just general help or there to do whatever. Members do experience sometimes some financial hardship and challenges. And if you're aware of any financial issues that they're having, you are welcome to encourage them to contact us. We respect their confidentiality. It doesn't get shared with other people, but we do have some funding that we have set aside to help members in case of an emergency. So that is available to them. And even though we say typically members are early in their career, you might have a member that is well experienced. They might just be looking for a new career field or a new type of position, or maybe they just want to get back after retirement. The member position description, I'm going to echo things that we've already said today. The member position description is the one guiding document that your member should refer to throughout the year. It lists the only or the allowable activities that they're able to do during their service term. We have an entire list of what we consider allowable. That's what you all pulled from when you completed your site application. But it's really important that we keep that standard language in there. That's what members understand. That's the language that you use. It's part of our compliance efforts with our AmeriCorps grant. So if you find throughout the year that the member could be doing something else that would be really beneficial for your organization or really creative, we can help you find an allowable service activity that would be a good fit to add to their position description. We ask that that is the only position description you use during the service year. Please don't create your own internal organization specific one with its own language. We want to keep, again, that standard language across all positions. And then it's agreed to by not only the member, but you as a site supervisor and the program director at HHCK. Members submit their timesheets on a biweekly basis. We need timesheets regularly because it ensures that we were allowed to provide that living allowance to the member on a biweekly basis. So without evidence that they have served hours, they shouldn't be receiving it. They will submit those every Friday or every Monday, or that's when they should. You'll receive a notification when they submit their timesheet. You're welcome to go into America Learns and approve it when you get that notification, but you do not have to. You can wait until the end of the month or so. Your members' hours are broken into 3 different categories. Most of their hours will come from the service category. That's going to be their day-to-day activities most often. They are able to count hours for training. We break that down into site-specific training or Homes for All training. So anything you send them to, like a org code training or KHC training or NeighborWorks or anything like that, they can count hours for as well. On a very limited basis, members may count some hours towards fundraising, but it is a very narrow window of what's considered allowable for fundraising. They can't spend any more than 10% of their hours on fundraising. And because there's such a narrow definition to it, we really, really encourage sites to contact us before asking the member to do any of those activities so we can make sure it's allowable. Typical activities that we would approve if they are securing donations maybe for a repair fair or a new home construction project, if they are trying to get donations for their MLK project, different things like that. If they can't be doing fund or grant writing, annual appeals, things like that. It can't just be like generic fundraising for your organization. It should be for a specific purpose. When they're completing their timesheets, America Learns has a feature that shows them how many hours that they need to average per week to finish their service on time. But that amount or that figure does not factor in any time off that they take or the holidays or weekends. We will talk about the service schedule in just a little bit, but we'll talk to the member as well that it's important for them to understand what they see in America Learns isn't factoring those things in. Throughout the year, ideally you have, things just go real swimmingly, you don't have any problems at all, but sometimes it does happen. So we ask that you address those issues early in hopes that we can resolve them. We'll ask you to document anything that you're seeing or anything that happens. Even if you think it's something pretty minor, you're just hoping it doesn't happen again, or you don't think it's that big of a deal yet, just sending us a quick email, letting us know. Because if it gets worse, we're going to need to have that documentation to do anything about it. So if a member clearly violates our standards of conduct, so unexcused absences, failing to call in, excessive tardiness, things like that, we're going to use a form called the corrective action plan. And it is more focused on like disciplinary action than what we call the member action plan. The member action plan is something we're going to ask you to use if you're having issues with a member's like productivity, you are wanting to redirect how they spend their time, how they complete those KHC files or rural development loan packages, whatever that might be. And that document is really just more of like a guiding form. It's like to help you lead the discussion, what your expectations are, what you want the outcome to be. It's important to know that you cannot fire or dismiss your AmeriCorps member, which is another reason why we want to know about any issues earlier, because we want to help you resolve them before you get to a point where you call us up and you say, hey, get this member out of here. I'm so sick of them. With proper documentation of issues, though, we'll be able to release the member for cause, so we can just exit the situation and it's over. I will say that if a member has a gross violation of our standards of conduct, say inappropriate relations with a client, clearly falsifying timesheets or documentation, kidnapping, we will exit them for cause immediately. I say all those things because they have happened. We're not just being silly when we give you those examples. Evaluations are a great time, though, to share any feedback or any outcomes you're hoping to have. We ask you to think about what's appropriate to include in evaluation. So focusing more on performance-based components rather than character-based things. So if you don't like a certain personality trait, is that really appropriate to share in an evaluation? Probably not. You will complete the second portion of the evaluation. It's going to be focused on the actual or the specifics of the position as it relates to your organization. The first part of the evaluation is completed by our staff. We're looking at things from a more programmatic level. So is the member on track with their hours? How have they been doing with their performance measure reporting? Have they attended all trainings and met other expectations of the program? And unfortunately, we do have issues that are experienced by members. So things might be going really well on the site's end, but the members might be frustrated. We often see this come when they have lack of guidance from their site supervisor. It's unclear what they should be doing. Or if they don't get a whole lot of clarity or honesty in their communication from their site supervisor. They want to do well at your organization. They want to make an impact. So if you are concerned about how things are going, members can sense that, but if you don't share with them, they aren't able to fix anything. Sometimes we have members that are asked to do activities by people at your site who don't understand what AmeriCorps member is, especially if it comes from someone maybe in management or, the executive level. That's uncomfortable. They don't want to say no to that, but they shouldn't be doing those things. So that can be an issue for them. We love our faith-based sites. We love working with them, but we have worked with organizations in the past where there's just too much board religious activity. Members can't be leading curriculum-based or faith-based curriculum or worship services or anything like that. Sometimes we assign too many things to our member. We expect too much out of them. So as we go throughout the year, just thinking about if we're being reasonable in our expectations and in what we're asking of someone that's making less than $20,000 a year. I know this is not unique to AmeriCorps members. Everyone, I'm sure at some point experiences burnout, but that is something we see fairly regularly with AmeriCorps members. So we do try and address that as we see it come up. It's something we're planning to be really intentional about this coming year when it comes to the winter time, because that's when we see it pop up the most. And then sometimes we just have too many cooks in the kitchen, too many people trying to supervise the AmeriCorps member. If you're on this call, you're the site supervisor. That's the person that they should go to, and the only person that should really be guiding them or supervising them. All right, Holly is going to take over again.
Find my unmute button. Okay, so we're going to talk about important AmeriCorps policies now, and these are also policies that your member will learn about and fully understand as we provide our orientation training to them. Okay, so AmeriCorps branding, we ask that on the members' business cards that the AmeriCorps logo is on there, so they, are identifying as an AmeriCorps member. We ask and we talk to members about this as well. In their email signatures, making sure they state, I'm a Homes for All AmeriCorps member, and include the AmeriCorps logo. In the office, we talked about, having that AmeriCorps sign up to show that you're in partnership with the program. Your website, if you update your website to include, new staff as they come on, of course, we want you to include your AmeriCorps member as well. Just make sure that we are using the correct terminology. So if they're a Housing Services AmeriCorps member, list that underneath their name. Include the AmeriCorps logo on your website as well to show that you're in partnership with the program. We send member gear out at the beginning of their service term for them to kind of have, pins to, put on their shirt, ink pens, t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, things like that, lanyards, water bottles. But sometimes we've seen it in like previous or sites that are still with us. They may include the Homes for All or the AmeriCorps logo on the person's badge, like on their name tag, so that they can always be identifying as an AmeriCorps member while they're serving at your organization. And it's an easy way to make sure that they have the AmeriCorps logo on. We just ask that, when you're referring to your members, like I've said, refer to them as a, Homes for All AmeriCorps member, Housing Services AmeriCorps member. Please don't refer to them as like an intake specialist or construction coordinator, things like that. Again, if you do still use your own language, please, at the very least, just include that they are an AmeriCorps member. Okay, the AmeriCorps member schedule in terms of service. So at this point, we should all be on the same page that there is an hour requirement of 1,700 hours by July 31st. If the person, starts their service term at the beginning of the program year, they are expected, and they sign it in their member service agreement as well, that they will be serving 37.5 hours per week. On the next slide, we'll talk about the that little bulletin point of monthly benchmarks provided. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Time off. Caitlin mentioned it. It does not count towards that 1,700 hour requirement. Every member, every full-time member starts their year with 10 personal or vacation days, 10 sick days, and then the federal holidays that we observe as well. This is something that I talk to members about up front in an interview. Honestly, at that point, I feel like it's a good place to kind of introduce it, so that they know it's not, it's not a job. It's not, 7.5 hours if I take off that's going to go towards that 1,700 hour requirement. They get trained on it during our orientation as well. So they should really understand what that time off means. It's just a day off. Again, just some other notes to kind of say, if your member does start later in the year, that means that they're going to have to serve more than 37.5 hours a week to stay on target with that 1,700 hour requirement. When we do have questions sometimes, well, do you think that it's a good idea or whatever? That's why we set August 1st as being the latest date that we're going to start a full-time member. We want to set them up for success. We know you guys want the same thing for your members. So yeah. This is the monthly benchmark for hours that we've developed. When we have members who come to us, things in life happen sometimes. So there may be a point that they might get, they might have to take additional time off or something like that. At that point, we would talk to them about what, that monthly benchmark that they would need to complete for the full month to stay on track to finish that 1,700 hour requirement by July 31st, because they may start later in the service term or something may come up, but July 31st is the last date that they can serve 1,700 hours. So we thought it would be good to share with you as their supervisor to kind of see what that looks like for a month. And it does account for holidays, their the leave policy. So we just wanted you guys to kind of see that too. Prohibited activities. I'm not going to read everything on the screen. Your members will be trained about prohibited activities. These are activities that members cannot do while they are serving time as an AmeriCorps member or identifying as a Homes for All AmeriCorps member or any AmeriCorps member. So just to kind of read some, attempting to influence legislation, engaging in religious instruction, conducting worship services. And they also cannot recruit, manage, or train any volunteers to do any of these prohibited activities. Again, I guess it wasn't last year, but the year before that, our service commission, the last year that we were allowed to do in-person site visits, some of you might remember, Caitlin and I, or we may have mailed them to you, a list to actually hang up of these prohibited activities, just so others at your organization know that they can't ask your member to do any of these. I forgot to add, we do tell your members that, what they do on their own personal time, that's their business. We're not, trying to dictate that and what they do in their personal lives. But as they are acting in this role, they can't do that. Transportation and mileage. If your member, if it's part of their service to transport clients or volunteers or something like that, Please make sure that your site or you are keeping copies of, and making sure they have a valid driver's license and current auto insurance. So please keep that on file. If the member is using, their personal vehicle to complete home visits, or if you are sending them to a training that they need to commute to, we ask that sites provide mileage reimbursement. If we are pulling your members to join us in a service project or trainings or something like that, at the program level, we will also provide, we will provide mileage reimbursement that we expect you to do. We're going to cover the cost of meals and any hotel or lodging expenses. And just some other things to kind of go over. Please don't hire your member outside of their service term. We ask that you don't employ or pay your member for work outside of their, AmeriCorps service. And if something changes in supervision, please let us know.
All right, we are almost done. We're just going to go over a couple more things and then you'll be free to go back to the rest of your day. I wanted to share what the last step is to getting a member, or before we can start a member. So this is what we're going to focus on mostly next week with candidates that have already been selected. There's a process we have to go through called pre-enrollment. It is new from the federal agency, or it's a couple years old. It's a multi-step process that can take up to 5 days. The member has to complete a form in AmeriCorps.gov, the website we kind of harp on throughout the entire recruitment process. Once they complete that enrollment form, their information gets sent to the Social Security Administration, who has to verify their citizenship and Social Security information. And the member cannot start service until we explicitly clear them. So we will send you a written notification. The member will be copied to it, so you all know that they are cleared to start. If the member decides to come on site beforehand and try and get hours before we say they can start, they won't be able to count them, and nobody wants that. Ideally, again, we get all members started before August 1st or 2nd. We know that's not going to happen for everyone, but we do want to get them started as quickly as possible so they have as much time as they possibly can to get those 1,700 hours in. So in order to start service, we're going to send you that they're cleared. The 3 parties are going to decide on a start date. And then whatever the start date is, that's the first day the member needs to log hours. They have to log hours on that date. So if you tell us you want the member to start August 3rd, that's the first day we expect to see hours logged on in their timesheet. So if something comes up, your member can't make it in, or you're sick or something like that, let us know so we can fix everything administratively and get all our ducks in a row again. All right, so what's happening next for you all? You'll receive our service site agreement. We'll be sending that through DocuSign. If you want a copy for yourself, you can access it on our website, but it's also going to be included in our site supervisor manual that you'll receive after today's training. If you are a new site supervisor or site supervisor that's taken a break for a couple of years, you'll receive a login information email from America Learns, and we'll also send you the presentation to show you how to navigate the website and how to approve member time. Once your member starts in service, we will be asking you to complete something called the AmeriCorps member and site supervisor expectations agreement. This is something new we're trying out. We're hoping it eliminates any blurriness or unclarity that your member might have in what you expect of them. So it's going to include things like, what's the process for calling in sick or late? Well, how do you handle breaks? What about shared conference space or workspace? Things like that. That's also where you're going to write out the schedule that you're having your member serve that has 37.5 hours in it per week. That's what your member needs to be serving. I understand if maybe you're anticipating your member only being there 30 hours a week. No, they need to be on site or serving 37.5 hours per week. We say that and we really emphasize that because of those holidays and days off and weekends. Those are all set up by design so that as long as your member stays on track with their hours, they'll finish their service by July 31st. I think that's like the 7th time we've said that today, but that's just to emphasize how important it is. If you're a site that is going to consider increasing your members' living allowance, that form is also included in the site supervisor manual. I know it's a quick turnaround, but we would like those back by July 30th, and that's so we can get everything set up so they can receive it with their first living allowance. Every site that we work with provides a site contribution to participate in the program. It is not tied to the individual member. It's not half of their living allowance or paying for X, Y, or Z. It's to participate in the program. If you have a member that is not construction, that's $7,000 per slot. And for construction members, it's $7,500. That payment is due on September 15th. You'll receive an invoice from our financial director. And we're going to send it to the person that was listed as the finance contact person in your site application. If we have trouble connecting to that person, we probably will bring you in at some point just to make sure you all can get what you need. If needed, we do offer a quarterly payment plan. I listed the payment dates on the screen. You'll get regular updates starting this year from our finance person if you are on a payment plan, just so you know where you're at with your balance. So if you get one in November and you're like, hey, you said this wasn't due until December, that's fine. It's still due in December. We're just keeping you updated. And the site contribution is non-refundable. We get asked that question every year. Again, it's not tied to the member, so we can't refund it. What is an option is if your member leaves early enough in their service term, we may be able to refill the slot so you can continue having an AmeriCorps member for the rest of the year. Okay, again, important dates. August 2nd, start of the program year, essentially. We don't believe really any member will be starting on Sunday. We have lots of orientation and training sessions. We have a calendar that we've developed for you to have so you can see what days your members will not be available for your site. That's also in the site supervisor manual. September 1st is going to be that last day to start a 1,700-hour member. We want to start them as quickly as possible, so you don't have to wait until August 29th to tell us you have somebody. Tell us as soon as you've got them. Again, September 15th is that site contribution date. Our contact information is listed on the screen, so if you have any questions or need support, just like overall from a program level or as the site supervisor, you're welcome to contact me. Holly's going to be your first person to contact for any member recruitment issues, any member training questions, or just overall member support. Wendy Tucker is our Director of Finance, so you will see that name come when we're talking about site contribution or the HHCK membership. And then we also included our contact information. I encourage you to visit our website. We keep our webpage updated very regularly under the Homes for All AmeriCorps tab. There's a whole page dedicated to just resources for you. So it includes these slides, the site supervisor manual, timekeeping instructions, just general support in supervising an AmeriCorps member. There's so many different things on there. So if you have a question, you don't want to wait for us, or we're not getting back to you soon enough, I encourage you to check out that website first. All right, that's all we have today. Thank you again so much for joining the call. We're really excited to work with you all and get this year kicked off. So if you don't have any questions, feel free to get back to your day, but we'll stay on for a few more minutes to answer any questions.